You're right about Everton. What is going on there, Simon? Farhad Moshiri is somebody I've got to know, the man at the top of the club. And I know you're quite an admirer of Farhad. He's got a hold of the football club.
I'm quite an admirer of Everton.
And well, he's put a lot of money into that football club. Not least, he's got the whole new stadium project up and running as well. But after all the pre-season hype, why is it that Everton have flattered to deceive once again in their bid to break into the top four? It's not for want of Farhad trying, because he's done everything he can possibly do to get some biggish names over the line. Richarlison came in, and that took a while to get. The negotiation with Watford.
Yeah, that's a couple of years ago, though, isn't it?
That's a couple of years ago. Yeah. Him and a bunch of others, though, have crossed the line. They've come over the line. And Everton have got some players in there now, like Allen, like others, like James, who you would have thought were going to be making a big impression towards Everton's overall ambition to get into the top four.
Maybe. I mean, look, I made some observations which was greeted by uproar by certain sections of the Everton fan base about Ancelotti and the project itself. And of course, at that particular time, they were doing really well and building and looking like there was real momentum. So that was then sort of, how dare you make an observation like that? And I'm not going to bring it back up again because it was based upon a little bit of subjective thinking and some people that I'd spoken to in and around Europe. There's no doubt Carlo Ancelotti was and is an outstanding manager. But Everton as a project is a very interesting one because we look at what they're trying to achieve, or what we think they're trying to achieve, which they were achieving once upon a time with David Moyes, and also once upon a time with Ronald Koeman, by getting into the top six, with a level of frequency.
Yeah.
And you look at it now, even Martinez got them in and around fifth, I think. But if you look at them now and you look at the top six and the environment they're trying to break into, as much as Moshiri has spent a king's ransom, it's not a king's ransom when he's comparing to the sides that he's trying to displace. So if you look at over the last 5 years, from when Leicester won the Premier League through to the evolution of Klopp in the Premier League and his spend patterns and the arrival of Pep Guardiola, go have a look. Look at Man City spending 820 million, Man United spending 700 million, Chelsea spending 820 million, Everton has spent 500 million. So when you're trying to displace these sides, there is only one commodity that buys success besides having a decent manager, is how much money they're able to spend. And so whilst 500 million is a king's ransom, you then look at Tottenham Hotspur. They've spent 410 million over 5 years. So there is no real science behind a lot of it. Of course, there's always the exceptions that are being thrown up with Leicester City, who've spent 450 million over the last 5 years. And don't worry about net spend, because people go, well, net spend. Well, net spend, you have to move players in and out, and it's about what you're doing with your buying criteria that builds teams into success.
Yeah.
I just think Everton have got a way to go to build a squad and an identity that will meet the challenges of Man City's involvement. Liverpool have gone backwards a little bit, but Liverpool at their pomp.
Yeah.
Even Manchester United, and not even Man United because that's unfair. Manchester United have, continued to evolve, but Chelsea are Everton are in this holding pattern of looking like they're building, but really they're just stabilising all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, if you take that argument, you look at West Ham. I mean,
that's my point.
They've hardly burst the bank in the fourth.
There's always exceptions. But this is an exceptional set of circumstances.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised, with all due respect to West Ham, if they replicate. I'd be very surprised if Leicester replicate winning the Premier League. Every now and again, an anomaly is thrown out. But normally, most of the time, normal service resumes, and you have the clubs that spend the most money occupying the positions, with a few exceptions.
So in other words, you don't foresee any long-term disruptors.
Well, it's like you get Spurs a few years ago. Everyone keeps talking about Spurs and what Mourinho's doing, but Pochettino caught a wave with an elite group of players that hit their straps, with Dele Alli being right on the rhythm, Harry Kane being right on the rhythm, Eric Dyer being right on his game, the two centre-backs being right on the game. But Spurs didn't supplement. They sold people like Kyle Walker, and they didn't supplement with better players. Everton are doing something similar. Explain me through how Alex Iwobi, with due respect to him as an individual, is an enhancement that basically takes you to a level where you're competing with the signings that the other clubs are making. Explain me through some of the centre-back signings that are decent players. Explain me through the progression past Seamus Coleman, who's a lovely player, great stalwart for the club, but moving forward. You look at Gylfi Sigurdsson, very good player, 50 million quid on a player that probably wouldn't occupy the interest of any of the other top six clubs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
So they've a bit to go yet.
I think
They've
they
a
do.
bit to go yet. And Lachlan is one of many Evertonians getting in touch saying, I agree with Simon. Everton are playing catch-up with teams who've been top 4 regulars who've spent more money on their squads over the last 5-6 years. It's not rocket science. It's going to take 3 or 4 years more and a lot more money.
And this notion that you've got to build a bigger stadium to be able to compete, well, it's nice, but it didn't stop Chelsea. Chelsea didn't build a stadium in 2003, 2004 when Roman Abramovich came in. They just spent money on players.
So when are we going to be persuaded that Everton are serious about breaking into the top 4?
Well, they are serious, aren't they? They're serious.
Yeah, but what's going to make them absolutely?
Well, I think if the difference between what the top clubs are spending, the real top clubs that expect to win the Premier League and to occupy the top 4 spots as a matter of course ad infinitum and dominate their places in Europe, is about £60 million a season difference.
Yeah,
which is quite a lot.
Yeah.
It's a top player difference every single season. And if you look at Everton's side and say how many top players have they got?
Yeah.
They take James Rodriguez out of Madrid.
Yeah.
And on paper, he's a great player. But when it comes to a 38 game season with Everton, is he there and thereabouts? Maybe he is. Everton fans watch their team every single week. I watch them in parcels.
Yeah.
The same with Gomez. The same with the centre back Mina. They're very good players on paper, but when it comes to being absolute winners that will take Everton across the line of, if you think winning is being in the top 4, they're a little bit off. They've got the manager on paper as well.
Is there one such player in that lineup from last night? Forget the goalkeeper Olsen. Dean Keane, Godfrey Coleman, Mina Sigurdsson, Davis Holgate, Richarlison, Rodriguez. Is there one that you would say is elite enough
Richarlison.
for us to push on with that argument?
Richarlison, but he doesn't score enough goals. But Richarlison is, yeah. And if you ask anybody around football, they'll say Richarlison.
Yeah.
Richarlison is a very, very good player.
Yeah.
Very good player.
I have to say, when you look at last night, and there's a message coming into that very effect. Calvert-Lewin, Gomez, Alan Doucouré, King.
There's a lot of absences.
Pickford not included, Delph.
I know, but with due respect, and again, this is going to enrage some people, you're playing Brighton, who are 4th or 5th or 6th from bottom in the league.
Yeah.
You would expect to be able to have a strong enough squad to make a dent in Brighton.
Yeah.
Not make a dent for a very pedestrian game. And it's not just Brighton. There's a series of results that have put them at the position they're in. They're not. Where are they now? The Carlo Ancelotti effect has picked them up and put them down in the exact same position that we're in when he came in.
Sure. So it's a relevant question to Evertonians out there this morning. Why has the club flattered to deceive once again in your bid to break into the top 4? And are you ever going to do it, say, in the next half a decade or so? Because at the moment it's not looking like it. 08717 223344 810 89.